Hey, hi everyone. Uh, just quick housekeeping stuff. So just as a heads up, I know we have an hour allotted for this, but really just it's going to be probably 30 minutes or so, and we'll have some time for Q&A if there's any questions. But yeah, thanks for joining. Feel free to ask any questions that you have in the chat, and then we can revisit those at the end in the Q&A. And just want to make sure we can get through the content. So I do want to just do a quick note that this webinar is being recorded, and it will be sent out later. So if you want to go back and review it later, that'll be available. So get going. So just a quick overview of what we're going to cover today. So we've got just a quick introduction of the program, since we got a different variety of folks that are going to be watching this and listening to this webinar here. So we'll go over the program, what our program is, and then most importantly is go over our new offering, which is an enrollment and equipment incentive related to demand response and IDSM. So I'll explain what that is in a minute. But for just a also quick heads up, on this webinar, we do have a mix of PG&E staff, PG&E account representatives, and then also demand response aggregators with PG&E. That's what this presentation is geared towards. Real quick introduction to what is AESAP. We are a third-party contract to PG&E. I'm just going to do a quick overview for those that aren't familiar with the program and how these work. But yeah, once again, my name is Andy Gustafson. I'm the program manager for the AESAP program. We're what's called a third-party incentive program that we're contracted directly with PG&E. This program is called the Agricultural Energy Savings Action Plan, or AESAP for short. It's run by our company, which is TRC. So TRC is a global engineering and consulting firm. We implement various programs like this around the globally, actually, and around the nation. And we're happy to have you here to go over our program and some of our new offerings that we have. But yeah, once again, for those that aren't familiar with AESAP, specifically, we offer prescriptive rebates, incentives, and financing support for energy efficiency equipment type upgrades. It's basically for retrofitting or installing energy consuming equipment in PG&E territory. We can provide incentives and rebates and financing support there. Just a quick overview. So deemed rebates, those are what are called prescriptive measures. They pay out an incentive or a rebate value based on the number of units, and there's no pre-approval necessary for those. They're really popular right now just for the ease of use and the common measures that we do. And we also do what's called custom incentives that are more geared towards the more complex measures that aren't on our rebate catalog, and those can also be incentivized through a program as well. Once a project's approved and submitted, and typically it's about 1 to 2 months before that incentive check goes out once we have approval on that project. Our program, we started in 2021. We're going through 2027. Once again, we serve all the agricultural sectors in PG&E territory. So what are some of those main subsectors? So that could be crop production, so irrigation related to crop production. We do a lot of controlled environmental horticulture or indoor growing. We also work with breweries, wineries, distilleries. That's the one component of our program that's more industrial in nature. And then we also work with dairies and livestock as well. I do want to, one of the most important things to highlight is the fact that our program is at no cost to the customer. We have a contract with PG&E to give out these services at free of charge, and we're basically helping manage and facilitate incentives and other technical and financing support for customers at no cost to them. One thing I want to highlight too is those financing options we have available. That's typically through the PG&E's on-bill financing program, and those are 0% interest loans, and the energy savings pay off those loans. So there's a lot of different offerings that we can work with customers on that can hopefully meet their needs, including the one we're going to cover today. So hopefully that helps. So what is IDSM? So integrated demand side management. It's a new offering that we have with our program. And basically what it is for program use 2025 through 2027 of the AESAP program, we did have funding added to help support IDSM, or integrated demand side management. So what is that? It's basically helping integrate the DR and demand side offerings and goals and initiatives statewide and with PG&E along with energy efficiency. So what we're trying to do is integrate that with our energy efficiency program so that we can more comprehensively serve customers, not only in energy efficiency, but also on the demand response side of things. So once again, the IDSM integrates that demand side management with energy efficiency. So what will our program do? We're going to be able to offer technical assistance for the demand response and demand side management offering, as well as, most importantly and of most interest, for be able to provide incentives to help facilitate the customer participation in these demand response programs. So why are we doing this? We believe, and we've heard through feedback from others too, and with customers and others that we talk to, that we believe that there are some barriers currently with demand response and with customers. What we've found and what we've heard through feedback is that often a lot of the customers that we work with are not even aware of demand response program offerings. And that's largely due to the fact that the agricultural sector is very isolated. So it's a very isolated customer base. While we do have some large customers, there's also a large amount of a lot smaller customers that are kind of spread out through PG&E territory and don't get a lot of that direct contact that they would have, with maybe some other sort of sectors. So what we're trying, the other barrier that we see is that for the agricultural sector, there's often a lot of capital limitations that make it difficult to install and do energy efficiency upgrades or demand response type programs because or equipment installs related to demand response, just due to the capital limitations. Because a lot of times, not always, but a lot of times, customers, the margins for ag sector is not very large, right? So they're kind of doing whatever they can work with, and they really do need that extra support to be able to take advantage of a lot of these programs that often require capital to be able to implement these type of projects or opportunities. Yeah, another thing is that customers are often interested in opportunities to reduce these costs sometimes, but they don't have the clear information on what these program offerings are. Because typically, like with energy efficiency programs, we're meeting and discussing our energy efficiency opportunities with customers. But the demand response programs and information they may receive is often separate from that through maybe some other campaigns and stuff like that that PG&E or the other DR programs are doing. So what we're trying to do is integrate that into energy efficiency, because we're already out there talking with customers, trying to sell and help them implement energy efficiency measures. So we think it's a great opportunity to complement that with some demand response options. So we're going to try to, we want to be able to offer some incentives and offer some technical support and stuff specifically for demand response to help integrate the demand side of things. So as shown here on the bottom of the slide, most importantly, integrating those DR incentives to our energy efficiency program will really just help educate and communicate those services and offerings and resources available to those customers. Oops, sorry, skip the slide. So quickly, I just want to go over some of the opportunities we see in the agricultural sector for demand response, and want to just kind of go over those. We do have what we think is kind of a unique customer and facility type that could work well with demand-related management. So the first one here on the upper left is just the large irrigation pumps for a lot of the irrigators and growers that we work with. These pumps can, and sometimes already are, being they can be monitored remotely and be able to use equipment to control them through like cloud technology, and that could be like automatic controls, storage, variable frequency drives on these pumps. They all could be used to help curtail the peak usage in the irrigation sector. So often these irrigation pumps don't necessarily need to run during the peak hours too, so there's some good opportunities there. But in our sector, we're often one of the most popular measures in our program, a very common measure, is putting a variable frequency drive on an irrigation well or booster pump. So the fact that they have that control or could put that control in would tie very nicely with demand response, because they could tie into those automatic controls to help and participate in one of those DR events. The next sort of sector opportunity we see are with our dairy customers. Specifically, these customers often have a lot of these ventilation or cooling fans in their barn stalls. And these fans are often controlled based on a temperature set point, or they might have newer, more advanced fans put in that have variable speed control, and they have control systems with those fans already, or we're working with those customers to install such equipment. So that is also a good opportunity because there's already controls in place, and we could tie those into the demand response programs to be able to shed a percent speed maybe for a specific load amount, or even entirely. So there can really be tied into some of those demand response events and be able to work quite nicely. So that's one other subsector, the subsector of our ag's customer base we think is a good fit. The other one is in controlled environment agricultural or indoor growing, CEA. These horticultural growers, they often have a lot of, pretty energy consuming, high wattage like lighting in place, and also HVAC systems. So a lot of those could utilize control systems already, or could be tied to those that could be able to some of the lights have dimming control capabilities, or even if not, they could tie into the HVAC system, or even a portion of the lighting to be able to ramp down the amount of wattage that they're using at these facilities. And we believe we could tie those into demand response program and be able to have a good offering there to help entice customers to enroll in the DR program. And lastly, we work with the beverage and brewery, winery, distillery sectors. They often have large refrigeration systems at their facilities, and those larger systems do often have the ability to incrementally shed load based on set points and control mechanisms for the refrigeration system. So that could also be a great opportunity. And another subsector to that could be like cold storage facilities. There are some good opportunities there as well for demand shed. So hopefully that gives some idea of what we think are some good opportunities in the ag space. But I'd be really interested in hearing and working with those on the call in the future, because I'm sure there's a lot of other opportunities out there that might be a fit for the ag sector. So quickly, before we go into the specific incentives available, I want to just talk about some of the eligibility requirements for the demand response incentives offerings that we're going to have. So one of the first eligibility requirements is they do have to be an agricultural customer or a brewery, winery, to distillery customer in the PG&E territory, and they must be a PPP on their bill, that surcharge on their bill, so they're participating customer. How do we determine specifically if they're an ag customer, brewery, winery, distillery? We go by the NAICS code that's tied to the service account ID for that specific customer location. So we'll look at that and determine if it's a 1-1 NAICS code. Those are all the agricultural codes. And then brewery, winery, distillery are the 3121 codes listed here. If you are working with a customer and you believe they're a grower or agricultural customer, but they might not be listed as one of these NAICS, it's not unusual that maybe they're classified incorrectly, and we can work with the BES service team with PG&E to make sure that the NAICS is correct, so that we can make sure we can serve them there. So the second bullet here, like I mentioned, they have to be a PPP paying customer. It's that little PPP charge is always on the bill, and typically, like almost every customer that we work with that we can see in the service territory are usually paying this. There's some exceptions; it's pretty rare, but we can help confirm that. The other important thing here I want to make sure is clear is to be able to be eligible for one of these DR incentives, they must be engaged with our AESAP program. But what I mean by that is they must be actively participating with our program or have participated prior. So an example could be well, in 2022, they installed a variable frequency drive and they received a rebate through our AESAP program. That's a customer that has worked with our program prior, and they can take advantage of these DR incentives. The other thing is maybe we're actively working with them on an energy efficiency project now. That's a customer that's engaged with our program. If you're working with a customer that's not engaged with our program, they can still be eligible for this, but that's where we want to encourage them to be introduced to our program so that we can help educate them on energy efficiency, so that we can work with them now to be able to work with them and have them actively participating with us. So if you're working, say you're an aggregator doing a DR, working a DR program with PG&E, if they have not or are not engaged with our AESAP program, That's the opportunity to get them working with us now, because then we can help take advantage of this ER program and also introduce them and educate them on some of the energy efficiency measures and incentives we have. So once again, they either must have participated with their ASAP program before or are actively participating. And if they're not participating, introduce them with us and we'll get them participating. That's kind of the main takeaway here. So, but we don't want to make sure it's clear if you have a customer that's about to enroll in a DR program, they need to be introduced and working with our program before we can pay out an incentive for a DR incentive or enrollment bonus. So the other eligibility requirement for these incentives is once they take advantage of the DR incentive offerings, there is a commitment that we request that they stay enrolled in the DR program, whichever one they choose, for at least one full DR season. So what that means is, like, say if they enroll mid-season, we need them to stay enrolled through the upcoming next season, so for one full DR season, if that makes sense there. And what DR programs are eligible for this? So four main programs we identified. The first two I think will be the most common ones, but all these ones are eligible for it. So the base interruptible, the BIP program, the ELRP, the emergency load reduction program, is another one. The capacity bidding program and the peak day pricing. Any of these ones, if they participate or are on it, they can be eligible for our incentives. So let's move on to the next slide here. So I want to kind of explain how that customers can earn in multiple different ways through this offering. So and through our program. So the first way is the customers could start earning a rebate on an energy efficiency related project. So just for simplicity, I'll kind of just say, like, maybe they're a crop and irrigation customer. If we put a variable frequency drive on the pump, they're eligible for a rebate, right? So that's the first way they can earn, by getting rebates and incentives through a program for energy efficiency equipment. What's the second way that they can earn? They can earn incentives for just enrolling in a DR program, which we're going to cover in the next slide. The third way is there's an equipment incentives if they enroll in a DR program, they can get additional incentives for the equipment related to the installation of the DR qualifying equipment. So that's the third way. And the fourth way is they also get incentives separate from our program for just those DR programs participating in those, because often BIP and other programs, like just enrolling with them, you get some benefits for doing that, right? So all these different ways can be stacked together to really come together, kind of a comprehensive, like, way that can really hopefully motivate a customer to enroll and participate. So what is the first incentive? The first incentive is just the demand response enrollment incentive. This is what we believe is one of the easiest ways a customer can earn by participating in demand response and working with our program. So what is that enrollment incentive? So customers are eligible to receive a one-time signing bonus for enrolling in a PG&E demand response program. This incentive will be paid through our program, separate from the DR program. This is through our program, at a rate of $50 per kW of committed load shed potential for the DR enrollment. And that is capped at a maximum of $5,000. So for an example, the first example here, just so if we have a customer, maybe they have a 50 kW load shed potential that they think they can shed on there, just, it's simple multiplication, but that would result in a $2,500 signing bonus for enrolling in, say, ELRP or BIP. As long as they enroll and we are working with them, they can work through us, and we're able to give them this enrollment bonus when we get proof that they did enroll for this. Another example here is, like, maybe they have a larger load shed potential, like 200 kW, right? That would be a $5,000 bonus because it's going to be capped at that $5,000. So that's the first incentive available through our program for demand response enrollment, which is enrollment specifically. The next incentive is the demand response equipment incentive. So if a customers who install new equipment that offers an energy efficiency savings component, they can receive equipment incentives up to $200 per enrolled kW, and that goes up to $50,000. So what this is trying to do is we're trying to incentivize customers that are doing energy efficiency to also enroll in DR. So if they have equipment related to that energy efficiency project that we help facilitate and identify or work with them on, If they also enroll in demand response, we can give them up to an additional $50,000 or up to 100% of that project cost, whichever is less, to also enroll in DR. And once again, this is stacked on top of energy efficiency incentives and the DR specific incentives they might get through those programs. So what do this equipment incentives? What does but before I get there, so basically operators can adjust that equipment. That could be either manually, semi-automatically, or fully automatically. And this does not have to be a fully automated ADR type installation. This could be, it doesn't have to be fully automated. So I want to make that clear. But what are the eligible incentives? What does it help cover? It help covers the equipment eligible for the AESAP and rebates or incentives, so the actual energy efficiency equipment. Also the qualifying controls, the installation, the programming, the commissioning labor for that, the project management technology and the actual installation on there, the cost for that, and the connectivity and the cloud subscription fee. So all that can be counted towards that project cost for the equipment incentive. I do want to say that the DR load shed values will be determined based on like engineering calculations that our team will help perform, but we can work with either the aggregators or the customers if they have a good understanding of what that load shed potential is. We will work with them to help determine what that load shed potential is and then apply the per kW incentive on that. So those are the two incentives. So a quick example of how this might work for, say, a 200 horsepower irrigation pump, just for example. Let's say that project cost is $50,000 for, say, putting a variable frequency drive on this pump or something like that. So just approximate, but that might be 150 kW demand with that 200 horsepower pump. So what's the first kind of enrollment bonus that they get? Well, they get that one-time signing bonus for enrolling in any of those PG&E demand response programs. So that'd be $50 per $150 kW. So that'd be capped at the $5,000 enrollment bonus. They're also eligible for, say, that variable frequency drive of installing, getting a rebate for putting that variable frequency drive. And currently for that size VFD, it's about a $9 per horsepower rebate or about an $1,800 rebate for that variable frequency drive. They can also get that technology incentive. So they can get $200 per kW for the equipment project costs for the equipment incentive. So that could be up to $30,000. So when you stack all these incentives, and this isn't even including the DR benefits or incentives they might get through the DR program specifically. So they get the $5,000 enrollment bonus, the $30,000 technology incentive, plus the $1,800 rebate for the VFD. So that really stacks up to be a significant amount of incentives that could really go to covering the cost of, say, installing, for this example, the variable frequency drive on the pump. So this is just one example for like irrigation pump, but similarly, the stacking of these different incentives can be done for, say, dairy fans, or like those other examples we did prior for like row lighting for demand shed for the, this could go towards helping coverage the cost of like putting in new grow lights. As long as they enroll in DR, we can add these additional incentives on there. Refrigeration as well. So maybe they do some floating head pressure controls and we're able to pay an incentive on that refrigeration equipment. They can also get these other incentives as well for participating in demand response for a year. So but that helps. So what is the application process for this? So if you're not sure, so specifically they can reach out to us on our website, agenergysavings.com. It'll be at the end of the slide at the end of the presentation as well. You can reach out to us by our main phone number or by our main email. It would be helpful if you're trying to facilitate sort of an opportunity through our program. If you're working with a customer, giving some high level information such as like, maybe you have an idea of what the load shed potential might be or the equipment, also the type of facility, what type of customer it is. Just some high level stuff would be really helpful so we have a better understanding. If you are a PG&E BES account representative, we would ask that you, it would be most helpful if you submit an energy insight lead to us to PG&E Partner TRC Environmental Corporation shown here, like you would typically do for an energy efficiency lead, and just make sure to call out if there isn't a drop-down option for IDSM or demand response. You can just put that in the comments field there so we can flag it as an opportunity for the DR offering. So What we'll do then is we'll review and call back whoever gave us this lead to talk about the viability and what the load shed potential is, and then we can work with you and the customer to if any questions that they might have. They will have to sign our program application, so we'll help fill that out and can facilitate getting that signed with either through you to the customer or directly with the customer. And then we'll discuss what the next steps are for enrolling in the DR program itself, once we have the load shed potential. But the way it works is once the customer says they're enrolled, we are going to reach out to the PG&E demand response program manager to get confirmation that that customer tied to that service account ID with the demand response officer did indeed enroll in the DR program. So we get that proof that they are enrolled. Once that's done, then we'll be able to cut the incentive check for the enrollment or technology incentive from our program. Usually, I would say within 4 to 6 weeks or so, we would expect that to get out, and that could be FedEx or hand delivery on what's preferred to that customer. So that's kind of how it would work. Once they're enrolled, we'd be able to get that incentive check to them in about 4 to 6 weeks. So those are the kind of the main steps. The last thing is just to do, once again, like I said, how to get in touch. We're coming up on a half hour, so that's about right on target there. So you can get in touch to me directly if you'd like. That's I'm the program manager for AESAP, and I'm happy to answer any questions. That's my direct cell phone number there and my email. If you prefer to, you can reach out through our website, contact information as well, or if you want to give that information to customers or opportunities, you can. Our email is shown here, and our website, once again, is agenergysavings.com. And on that website, there, if you go right on the main homepage there's a lot of great collateral on the different subsectors and what energy efficiency opportunities, the common measures that we do with ag space. So that could be a good resource for helping direct customers or to get knowledge on what sort of measures we commonly do. We also have a rebate catalog right there on the website under the incentive offering, so you can look there and see what sort of measures might be eligible for trying to tie maybe a rebate or incentive with the DR enrollment opportunity. So once again too, if you want, on our website, you can always sign up for our newsletter. We have a newsletter that goes out as well, so if you want to get some information on that. But more than anything, I hope this was helpful to kind of just go over what the DR opportunities are. And I will, now that I'm through with the presentation, I'll take a quick look to see if I have any questions in the chat, or maybe Sarah, if you've seen any, or we can open up for a Q&A. Let's see. Is there any questions anyone on the line might have? If not, no worries. Pause for a couple minutes. Or a minute, not a couple minutes. Okay. Well, I'm not hearing any questions, but that doesn't mean you can't still send them to us. So feel free to reach out with any questions that might come up. Once again, we're gonna save this recording, and we'll be sending it out for future references or reference to watch for information. And more than anything, I just want to thank you all for joining to take the time to learn about the new offering. And yeah, we're really excited to be able to work with you on some more incentive offerings that we can give to the customers in the ag space. So that's all I got. Thanks, everyone.